Hi everyone. Thanks to be here. It was our first HR event at Erudite AI. We have around 200 of people registered here for this event, and our mindset or our purpose for this event is to be able to spread and to share really innovation and really amazing things related with HR. We are going to try to interview one amazing HR people for each event, and we want to start with KO, Khalilah, which is the Chief People Officer at Tru Colors. So nice to meet you, Khalilah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so what we are going to try is to know more about her, about her practice, her company, and after that, obviously, we are going to talk about best place to work and how the current times have changed this conception that we have related with best place to work, and the world has changed. So obviously, this practice has also changed at the HR. And after that, we are going to be a little more deeper to the analytics side. Okay, how are we able to measure everything as HR professional? What does it mean? Which role do we have currently as also a business decision? And which are the new techs that we are also offering to try to improve that, and talk with Khalilah, well, what does she think and everything. Okay, so basically this is going to have a duration about 45 minutes. So from my side, anything else, I just want to provide added value with this kind of events from Erudite AI. So let's gonna enjoy your KO, Khalilah, and Pablo. I give you the micro.
Perfect. Keo, again, thanks for joining. And like I think Alejandro did a great job in explaining what we're gonna do in this webinar. But to start off, I would really just like to know you to tell us a little bit about you, your background, why you're so passionate about HR, and go a little bit more about Tru Colors. So if you could, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure. So I've been serving people since 9 years old. It sounds funny, right? But in some way, shape, or form, I've been serving people since I was that young. My career actually didn't start in HR. It started in entrepreneurship. I cleaned local bodegas in Bushwick, New York, where I lived, at the time for $20. And I realized how important having conversations and connecting people were back then. Since that time, I built a couple businesses. A few failed, of course. A couple worked. But before joining the HR field, I owned an event and set design company for film and TV. And when I exited out that company, I knew that my drive wasn't going to be money. It was going to be making impact in the lives of others who may have grown up in areas that I saw, like in Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And I learned most of the life that I lived in leadership skills from growing up in those streets of Brooklyn, New York, before attending college in New York City and then in North Carolina. My passion comes from a few things. And I think for the purpose of this conversation is I realize that when you cultivate who people are and drive them, they can discover that there's something more to who they believe they can be. So you don't have to hire a star performer. You can actually put some systems and processes in place to develop a person into a star performer. And we design systems that are people focused, purpose driven, and profit aligned, which is a passion that's at the top of my list. We'll find that we would have less turnover and we would have more internal people excelling and leading in a career. And so, I was just exit out of a company. I started speaking on people operations and systems, and I stumbled across a founder, George Taylor, who was starting a company that hires active gang members, and I realized that some of my upbringing in the streets of Brooklyn, New York would help qualify me for the role. And so we had a conversation, and he actually brought me in for a contractor for a one-day presentation to speak, similar to what I'm doing here with you guys today. And after that conversation, he asked me, could I take that conversation and turn it into a 1 week a presentation, maybe a workflow system. And I did that. And after that, it was 40 days. And I've been there ever since. And that was in 2017. And Tru Colors, is a for-profit company with a closely knit social mission to unite gang rivals and decrease violence in our city and in cities across the country. Really passionate about the work because you realize that block skills can translate into the boardroom. And so when we're teaching and I'm creating curriculum for our team, I realize that if they are really good at selling stuff on the street, they might be really good at selling the product inside the building. You just have to show them how to cultivate what they grew up with and what they had and that lifestyle that they lived and use it in a different way. And I call that re-engineering HR, re-engineering the human resource that you have in your department or that you have in your company. People can be re-engineered, but it comes with education and the outcome is always impact. Hope I answered your question.
No, of course, that's amazing. First of all, I think True Colors, what you're doing with True Colors is super cool. The social aspect of it, and I want to just touch on the points what you said. Actually, like re-engineering HR, how you're able to take your people, give them purpose, and support them and help them grow. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that? I think it was super interesting.
Yeah, so like most companies, we have an onboarding, but a standard corporate company is going to onboard you for maybe a day or two, or maybe a week. We have an 8-week onboarding, and it teaches life skills, social skills, business skills, and of course, beer, because we are working to become a brewery. And the framework that curriculum was designed in is formal classroom training, a development activity, special project, and then the Beyond the Block experience. And so we get them in this classroom and teach them something. Then we give them an opportunity to develop further by doing research on their own. And then after they do that research, we give them a special project, which is an opportunity to present what they learned, because most of our team members may not have had the opportunity to ever lead in a conversation and present in a forum like we're offering them. And after they do that, I usually reinforce it with an experience outside of the neighborhood, outside of Wilmington. And what I found that does is it helps reinforce confidence, and it gives them what they need to push down that positive peer pressure to team members who may not be in True Colors yet. And so from this framework and in this experience, they can take what they learned and they'll use it. Early on, we found that if you have a conversation, that's where it starts. It'll challenge what they believe about themselves, about the system, about opportunity, even that they deserve the opportunity because people have done so many things. And that belief is foundation for skills. I can't teach you skills if you don't believe that you can use it. And so that's a core component at True Colors. And after that 8-week onboarding, you flow into a 90-day internship where you are doing stretch assignments and you are being educated again to get over the learning curve in the department that you're in, whether it's marketing, HR, health and wellness, finance. And after that 90-day internship, you flow into your role. But in there and after that, we have some sustainability systems in place, which is a true community. I've split the team up into full tribes, and they compete based on their work performance, giving back into the community and stability. And so that's a recognition and reward system, but we're using it to drive the outcomes that we want in the team members. And it's been designed for them because it speaks to the language that they understand.
I think that comes very well into our next point, and it's everybody's talking about being a people-centric organization. What does it mean to be a people-centric culture?
Man, people over processes, right? I mean, so many in the world screaming the gospel of wellness and diversity, inclusion, equal pay, and equal opportunity. I think it's safe to say that we have become really good at fighting for things, but not always for the people the things are for. Man, I'm just, leading companies prioritize things that are important to their team members. And so I've seen a lot of companies do things like financial and mental wellness because it's important right now based on the temperature and the climate that we experienced last year. But I think like one of those trends in people-centric organizations is creating a holistic system to elevate the full employee experience.
Definitely. I think those words, the holistic and to really build that holistic employee experience is definitely what it's all about. And you touch on the next point, actually, which is how has it changed from, obviously we know what happened last year and all the events that happened, but what is it, has it changed what it means to be a good place to work or a great place to work from a year ago to what it is today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things we all have seen, and I don't know if, the guy, anybody that's up here that's listening can relate or watching, is that we realize that in a crisis, you can't exclude the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes in companies, we just don't speak about certain things. It happens, and we put a piece of paper in a file. But in a crisis, you can't exclude the conversation. You have to make a statement because your silence is still a statement. And so I think that we realize that we have to communicate more effectively. I think people have finally paid attention to the link between how you treat its people and the organization's profitability, right? It has to live together. Again, I said it earlier that companies, right now they're seeing and remembering and understanding that we have to be people focused, purpose driven, and still profit aligned. A company should be able to make the money that it needs to reach its goals, but you also should have a sustainable return on investment when it comes to your people. What are the outcomes that you want to drive from the people that you have in your organization? How can you cultivate them to excel at levels so you don't have to bring in a super expert, they become the expert? What can you do to reduce turnover by putting in systems so that the employees know that they're cared for? And cared for doesn't mean a pizza party, right? Or a cool package. Being cared for means that you listen, right? Being cared for means that you're giving me an opportunity to educate myself to become a thought leader or expert in my role. Being cared for means that you're empathetic to some of the situations that I may have experienced, and you heard me, you listened, and you created a system for it and put it in place.
I think that's amazing the way you're talking. It makes super sense to me. Um, Not only is it now the good thing to do in terms of listening to an employee and making sure everything is there's well-being in the employees, but now you're also linking it to the business results, right? So now a company or organization has to do it because it's a great a good thing to do, but it also leads you to better performance in the employees. So I think it's great, and I just want to say it for the participants or the people that are listening. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in. We want to make this as interactive and engaging as possible. So please go ahead. Any questions for KO or myself, please go ahead and put those in there and we can go ahead and answer them. And just in terms of that, I know you're talking about listening to the people. Any best practices in terms of that to create a people-centric culture? I know you said listening and taking what they say into account. Um,
Yeah, I think so. Empathy can't be excluded from the experience anymore. And that
okay.
doesn't mean that we don't continuously enforce our rules and our policies that we put in place. It just has to be built in at the baseline. And so what that means is staying aligned to the purpose. What's the purpose of the organization? What do we want to do? And how do our people fit in? And so now instead of just onboarding, include that person, like show them how they fit in into the tree that the company has designed. It's like an org chart, but I'm calling it a tree because each branch is connected. So best practices is showing people how they fit in,
Wow.
showing them how their role makes sense. And so we may look at somebody that is the facilities manager or someone that is the front office admin, but showing them how they make up the entire pieces to the puzzle. Their role may not be in leadership, but they still have to learn to lead at their level, right? And so I think showing people how they fit in the overall vision and mission of the company, it'll help them stay aligned to the purpose, and that will help increase productivity and, of course, increase your profits because you have happy people.
I think, I mean, linking exactly, just like you said, being able to show them where their efforts are needed or how their efforts can take the company to the next level or how they're helping. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
For my next question, I guess it would be close to that. It would be
Okay.
how uh, the importance of measuring that, of actually being able to measure the culture or the well-being, and also even that, the understanding, do they align? So I guess my question is it important to measure culture and well-being? And
Yeah.
if it is, how do you recommend measuring it?
Yeah, so that's one of those great questions. I think that it's vital to measure culture and the well-being of a company, and here's why. If you don't have a pulse on what's happening inside the company, you won't see it until something is wrong, typically, right? And so if you're constantly measuring it, and you can do it in a simplified way. I'm really big on surveys, and I mean survey everything. I know that may sound crazy. You guys are a tech company, so you're a little bit more sophisticated than what we've had, but a simplified way is survey and measuring each unit that creates the full system in the company and that the company is operating under, and then using that same scoring system to see where the organization stands. It's a health check, right? How are we doing? How many people are showing up to our events? How many people are communicating via Slack? How long does it take for a standard response by email, right? How many people are showing up to after hour events? And if we're Zooming still because we're working from home, how many people are showing up, watch this, with their camera on as opposed to their camera off, right? And so measuring culture and well-being, I think, is vital to the company. I'll go back. If you want to push your people so that they can excel, you have to know what they need, and you also have to know what you can pull away, right? And so you only do that by measurement, and not all things are quantifiable because it can be subjective based on what you're looking for, what you're looking at. But if you want to see how many people are engaged in a Zoom conversation, you look at how many people, what time they show up, how many people are on camera, and how long they stay after the Zoom call is over. And so I think what that wellness check does is that it shows you if what's working is working, or if there's something broken that you need to fix. If nobody's on camera in any Zoom meeting, but the person that's leading the Zoom meeting, you have to ask yourself what's happening. Are they Zoom burnt out, right? Maybe we need to create a new system for them to put in place. Or if nobody's showing up to our team events, or they're not having standard conversations at our all hands meeting like we normally do, you have to get to the root of what the issue is, so that you can fix it. And fixing things doesn't always mean that you have to create something brand new. It just means that there could be a break in the process that can be put back together by a means of conversation.
I'm definitely with you, KO. And I love your passion. I really love the passion of everything you're
Yeah.
saying. It all makes sense to me, and I think the people listening are getting massive insights from what you're saying. And based on that, what I would really like to go into now, I think Rick would be a great person to take over right now. But it's basically, I know you touched a little bit about this, that you said we're a little bit more sophisticated because you do a lot of surveys. But exactly, have you heard of any of how AI powered AI is being used to generate these people insights?
Well, I heard a little bit. I know that I had a HR friend that says that it was a better way to optimize some of the data that they wanted to collect for their company. And so I know that it's not just the new thing; it's the best thing for HR right now, to use AI and that data that you collect, because you know, the results are there. And most of the time when I do a survey, I have to depend on pushing out a piece of paper or sending out a link. And you're not always sure that that's factual, but having AI in place, I think it is gathering data from places that we wouldn't otherwise look or be able to translate. And those are those things that I talked about that's not quantifiable, but that are really, really important. An example is Slack. You can see if somebody hasn't been on Slack for 30 days or less, but I want to know, like, the whole time they've been on Slack, how long have they not communicated? How many people have they connected to? Because that's going to tell me, for an example, if after somebody stops communicating and there's 3 days that pass by and I see some behavioral change for us and our company, I know that that person may be spiraling. So I need to directly connect with them. So those things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to quantify, I think, having AI powered people insights will help us quantify it.
I think, and I mean, that's exactly what Edulite is doing. We want to use AI to surface those red flags, to surface those insights, basically by unlocking language as a data source. And I love that you touched Slack and all these, because that's exactly what we're using. And I think, Rick, if you're there, I think it would be awesome if you could come in now and help us explain a little bit more about what we do to KO.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, we realized that a lot of people want to have analytics on their employees over
Mhm.
how well do they communicate with each other, and if they are burnout or if they have any intention of resigning anytime soon or are looking for other jobs. And
Mhm.
a lot of
Yeah.
these things are measured through surveys, but the problem is that surveys most of the time are not as truthful as
Mhm.
they might be, because people answer what they think you want them to answer.
So
And
that's good.
there's also like, even when they're anonymous,
So good.
you still have the risk, like what if they know that this is my handwriting, so they punish me for answering that my boss is really lame, right?
Mhm.
So we've found out a way to track all the communications that occur in Teams and Slack and email, and then apply neural networks to get insights into how people are feeling during their work. The hardest part, I think, over this has been with privacy. Like the first thing people ask us is like, how do you handle privacy, and how do people
Mhm.
feel about us listening to their communications? So I
Mhm.
don't know if you have any thoughts on that part, like how can we approach employees, or how can we approach HR managers to understand that it is not something invasive, but rather something that is used to improve their well-being, right? And that this is already so. I hate, for example, Instagram and Facebook tracking all you say and do, and
Yeah.
putting you ads. So I understand that part, that it can be annoying,
Mhm.
but also because you're not actually getting value from this, right?
Mhm.
And because this is your personal data and your personal conversations. So I don't know if your thoughts on Slack and Teams and us listening to conversations.
Yeah, so I understand the thought that some people may think is invasive, but I think that you have to present it to them and let them know that what it actually is inclusive. And a lot of companies are driving diversity, equity, and inclusion right now. And inclusivity means that everybody has a voice. And so what that data is doing, right, and they may not realize it, is providing everybody's input and voice based on what they do. And so sometimes people are afraid, like you said, to answer questions, or they don't know how to answer questions or share some of the experience that they face, because they may think that they're going to be retaliation in the company workplace, or the culture hasn't been shaped where people have a voice. And so having AI empowered people insights, it will provide inclusivity for everyone. So what you do will help shape what we know, and in turn what we do also. And so yeah, I would actually use that. It's not invasive, it's inclusive. It's giving everybody a voice and an opportunity to help the company move forward with real time insights from the people that are inside the company. I think there's value there for CEOs, value there for human resource and people operation teams, and even value there for investors. They want to know what's happening in organizations that they've allocated their funds in as well. And since everybody's looking to create more DEI initiatives, you may not have thought that AI empowered people insights is a DEI initiative, but I think it is. It's giving people a voice in a new way. It's providing inclusivity without me saying anything, but in what I do the whole time I'm at work.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Alejandro.
Paulo, we are done with questions.
With the questions, I think we're
Okay,
definitely done.
we have
Yeah.
some questions here from people, two for Khalilah and one for Eludit. Diego Malo wants to know about how do these four tribes compete at True
Mhm.
Colors? Is the tribe's performance tied into the workers' compensation?
That's good. So the tribes compete based on work performance. So that's through performance metrics, how they're doing monthly. They also compete based on how they give back in the community. And some of the events that they drive. So inside the system, every head coach is responsible to submit a play sheet every month. And the play sheet just shows all the plays, and they're categorized through engagement, through communication, through productivity, through work performance. And we have an actual scoring system that shows how you can generate income or what can be expensed. And so you just don't generate income in the system. Your team can be expensed for some of the things you don't do. And one of those things is not communicating across Slack for a certain amount of time. And instead of giving points, we do community cash, because the language of our team members is money. And so if you make the most community cash for a quarter, you're deemed the baller of the quarter, right? It's one of those languages that gang can relate to. And what that means is that you perform the most. You performed in the workplace, you gave back inside the community. And remember, as a company, Tru Colors is still trying to change perceptions of what people believe about gangs. And so that's changing perceptions. We're trying to teach our team how to be responsible by making sure they have reliable transportation, stable housing, and building healthy relationships. And so we quantify all that inside the system. And that community cash is used where they can convert the note to experiences. They can go and opt in for dinner. They can do wine and design. They can get gift cards. But at the end of the year, the top 3 performers compete with the pitch to the entire team on why they should win a trip. And so the year before last, somebody went to the Bahamas, and this year we're hoping we can send somebody to Jamaica. And so what this does is that inside the system, it pushes people to perform, it pushes them to communicate, but it also gives them the opportunity for those beyond the block experiences that we believe help shape who they are and what they believe. And it's a recognition and reward system. I always tell companies that every company needs one. It doesn't have to be as extravagant as this, but the data I receive from that tells me how each individual likes to lead. One head coach may drive his team to focus on stability. The other head coach may drive his team to focus on community. That tells me what roles they would be good for inside the building and what I can put in place to help cultivate what they believe and what they call leadership in their eyes.
Perfect, Khalilah. I have another question for you. How are you measuring success in your programs at Tru Colors, KO? What success have you seen?
Yeah, so good question. So for our Disrupt You class, which is our 8-week onboarding, looking at how many people we bring in. Typically, we can bring in no more than 12 people at a time, just because we want to maintain that level of connection. And it's 8 weeks. This last time was the first time we was able to bring 24 people. So we measure how many certifications you receive, how many people get housing, how many people receive transportation, how many people go back and get their GEDs during the program, how many people are on what we call savings plans to hit money cash flow milestones. And so we're measuring everything that they do. And we do that because at Tru Colors, there's going to be a return on investment, of course, for something like beer, but most people are interested in what the return on investment is for the people. So what's happening with them? What kind of change is taking place? And so the data I look for typically is how many people have completed course assignment, how many people have gotten into housing. And what that means for most people is that they're putting cash inside the economy now in the places that they live, right? Which is good for an investor perspective. I'm also looking at if they show up in those categories that I measure just outside of the class is attendance, attitude, and achievement. Attitude is subjective, right? It's based on the department manager, whoever's leading. Achievement are your goals or your rocks, those things that are put in place that you have to achieve by quarter. And attendance is whether you show up on time. And so we measure those simplistic things to see where someone is. And if you drop below a pulse of 3, then we put you on a performance improvement plan to show you how to get back up that ladder.
Okay, and I have one question for you. You have just talked about achievements. Which are your achievements for this year?
My achievements for this year?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. So, I mean, this has been a hard year in people operations, even a hard year for, just a hard year in general. So my achievements this year so far, I've gotten to speak, and share insight and information and make impact with so many people, not just in the United States, but abroad, like you guys. Our team, we actually have a couple of guys that graduated with their high school diploma. I have 3 guys. I was able to make sure they were in stable housing, which is important, because some of our team are felons. And as a felon, you typically can't get housing in your name. And so we've been able to build relationships with people people that'll give somebody another opportunity to live again. And so we've gotten people housing. Our brewery is almost fully built out. And so we're in our building, and we have the highest number of team members that we've ever had in history, and that's 73. And so I think that those are great achievements. And personally, I mean, 2020 was challenging as a people ops. I had to learn how to be a medical pro, a CDC specialist, and still do people. And so I haven't lost my mind. So I think that's an achievement for all of us, right? Yeah.
Perfect.
Man. Yeah.
And here I have one question for Ricardo. How do you collect the data for these wellness measures? Is it all automatic, for example, with APIs for Slack, Teams, or whatever, or is someone manually capturing everything into a spreadsheet?
Yeah, everything is automatic, and it's done by connecting your platforms through OAuth authentication, like any other login with Facebook or login with Google does. So you just log in with Slack, and we can start tracking all the communication.
Oh.
For that, KO, I had a question for you exactly, because do you have any questions on how Erudit works? I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, and so I do. I want you guys to tell me. So if I'm a company and I come to you and I say, hey, I'm interested in learning more about the software, I'm looking at what the implementation looks like and how the reporting is. How would you walk me through that process? Because I'm excited to share this with other pros and people.
Okay, we are trying that the onboarding process do it as simple as possible. Okay, you just have to put 2 or 3 JSON numbers from the administrator of your communication suite, and just making one click, your whole corporate is onboarded, and you can see the whole people. You can create your own groups, and maybe you can decide you just want to see the aggregate data or individualized data, and you have access to a dashboard. When you can see the whole analytics on real time, day by day, with some alerts if someone is not going well and you have to fix something. This is really what we do. This is super simple. You just have to connect with one code every corporate communication tool, and everything is added value to your dashboard daily. Okay.
Wow, that's it. Simple.
Simple.
That's incredible. I think that this changes a lot about how we collect data and how we design for people. And Ricardo, you know, when you talked about invasiveness, man, it's a difference. I think that this will make people believe and feel like they have a voice based on what they do. They know that, their behaviors is being built out in a system that is going to show and that will eventually help shape things. So this is a game changer, I think, for people, operations, and for human resource and organizations, because for so long we depended on paper or a simple poll system to ask people to be honest. And like you said, sometimes people aren't fully honest, or they miss a question, or the truth is really half baked, and so if it's not based on them, filling out a survey and a piece of paper and me going back looking at it, but having a dashboard that I can view in real time, it'll help me make decisions in real time, and that's powerful.
Okay, my last question for you, Khalilah, is what do you want to tell to these HR professionals which are right now living in so challenged times? What do you have to say to them? How they are able to be able to do their job as best as possible, and how do you want to tell them to encourage them?
Yeah, I would tell them to stay committed to the mission, the purpose that's been aligned with the organization that you're in. And, you should always remember that no one system is a fit all, that you have to design for the people that you're serving. I have this thing called activating the KIND code, and KIND is an acronym for knowledge inspires new direction. And so what you know can shape what you do. And so if you are an HR professional and you're listening, you're thinking about what happens next, use what's already happening in the system of the company that you work at, that you are offering support in, and create from there. Remember that it should be people focused, purpose driven, but still have to be profit aligned. We can't spend so much time and money creating pizza parties that we forget that a company has a profit margin to reach as well. So find balance there, and remember that it's your job to develop the people, and to put systems in place that is effective for them and for the company. And so make sure your fingerprint is on everything that you touch, and you get that from the data that you collect and understanding the people that you're connected to.
Okay, so in my opinion, this is a golden close. So if someone wants to ask anything else to Khalilah, we can go ahead, or we can let this first awesome interview here.
I think there are 3 more questions actually.
Oh,
No, they are
what do you
the
mean?
same than before. Okay, so Khalilah, thanks a
Yes.
lot for your time. Nice to meet you. I hope to let's keep in touch, and if we can also help you with whatever you want, or we can also learn anything else from you, it will be great. Okay, so thanks a lot for your time. Thanks Pablo, thanks Khalilah, thanks Ricardo, and thanks Ana for the work did for this event. So thanks a lot.
Alejandro,
Thank you, guys.
sorry, before we leave, I think there's just one last question that was on the Q&A,
Okay.
and it's for Ricardo, and it's saying, what can you tell us about your machine learning models? What type of learning systems do you use? I think that's something that would be nice to tell the people.
Yeah.
We've been experimenting a lot. So ERID is basically natural language processing. So the state-of-the-art algorithms on natural language processing are called transformers, and they pretty much take all the text and then you turn them into vectors, which are pretty much just lists of numbers. So we try and remove like all the emails, names, numbers, anything that is personally identifiable or that reveals any kind of private data first. Then we remove all the words that don't have any actual meaning, that are more like up, down, left, right, so and or unuseful words. From there, the system learns how to correlate the words present in the text with burnout, engagement, and frictions between employees. So we measure risk on with that with neural networks, and we also measure their emotions using something called the Plutchik scale that can tell 64 different emotions based on what they say. So we developed a whole personality theory that is applied. So we put equations to psychology so that we could model them with neural networks. So I think Erudit is half and half a psychology theory and an AI theory. It's not just the AI that makes it possible, but also all the mathematical models that we developed over psychometrics. So so it's more than just AI. It's also a way to see psychology that allows us to apply math to psychological measures.
Wow.
Thank you, Ricardo. I just wanted to answer that, and obviously a couple of more questions came in, but I don't think we have the time for those questions. I'm sorry. I hope I can get to them later, but that's it, Alejandro. I just wanted to put that out there if you want to go ahead and close it out.
The same that I said before, that it was a really pleasure to be able to talk with some HR professionals with so much common sense and with the people into the core and into the center of their hearts and their corporation. So it was a pleasure, and go ahead, and if you find for all these HR innovators that we are talking with around the world, I have to say to them, the words that you have into the wall behind that prove them wrong. Okay, the things are able to do into a different way. Always you have a better way to do the things, and I think that this is related with be brave and believe in something and put the people into the middle of everything.
So good.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks a lot and see you into the next 7. Thanks, Khalilah.
Thank you, Keo.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.